Hello, and this is a review of my Matrix. So first, let's go over the seats. I went to a few local parks, and local areas around me, as well as I did a few extra ones, just because I wanted to, that maybe not were near me, but I just thought were cool. So these first two came from the first local park that I went to. The third image, is actually from the Grand Canyon, which I recently went to this summer, and I actually saw a bench just like this, so I thought it would be a pretty cool thing to also review. This is from a park much closer to me than the first one, as well as a local community college near me. Then a dog park. Um, I couldn't really get it. I felt pretty bad, but this is a local graveyard. I saw a few benches. This is the bench I could get to closest to without just walking over stuff. I didn't want to stay there too long because I felt rude to take pictures. And then this is from a local restaurant. And then the last two are chairs I actually own, and I just wanted to review them because I thought to have a nice full 10 would be nice. So, um, the first park bench I thought was, or a little bit more than just a park bench, but it was like this whole Ramada area with also some grills and just like communal area. So for comfort, I put 7 because it had shading, which in Arizona, like you kind of need to sit down in. Cost, it was probably the highest out of all of them, so I put 10 as there was also the shading. There was a lot of seats, as well as the seats just looked really well made. So after I tried Googling this specific bench, but I couldn't find it, but it definitely would be on the more expensive side. Environmental impact, I also rated a 7 as it would take a lot of material, as there's a ton of benches, roofing, as well as grills. However, I also put 8 in safety because everything seemed well made. It seemed like you couldn't get hurt. It wasn't a 10 because it did have like corners and stuff, and the seats are pretty hard. So if you did fall or something, it probably wouldn't feel great. Sustainability, I put 6 as it does use a lot of materials, more than you really need for shaded areas, but you also wouldn't be like constantly making more of these and stuff. So does have a long term. Uh, it would stay long term. Social impact, I put 8 because there's often you could have parties here or just communal events. As well as function, I think a 10 as out of all the ones here, it just had the most uses for the public. And I put a 7 for aesthetic because it does look really nice. For the second park bench, I put comfort as 2 as it's a metal bench and those suck. Cost, I put a 6 as it is metal and it's not as cheap as, say, wood or maybe the other ones would have been. Environmental impact, I put 5 as it does require steel, which a lot of mining areas are not very environmental friendly. As well as 5 for safety, as I mean, it's a metal bench in Arizona, not shaded. You could get burned from it. Sustainability, I also put 4 for the same environmental impact. A lot of mining places just not good. Social impact, I put 4 because you'd only sit down on this if you really wanted really needed to. Function, I put 1 because I would not sit on it. And aesthetic, I also put 1 because it's ugly. Grand Canyon, I put comfort as a 3. It does have back support, which is nice compared to some of these other ones, but it's still just wood. But it felt much better than the metal bench. Cost is also pretty cheap because wood's pretty cheap, as well as environmental impact's pretty low, as wood, especially if you're sustainably doing and replanting, is not the worst material. Safety, I put 8 because there's not a huge issue with it, as well as sustainability was pretty high for the same reasons. Social impact, I put 4 because it really just does what it needs to. Function, same thing. And aesthetic, I put 10 because I think it was really nice with the Grand Canyon aesthetic. Number 4, the other park bench, I put comfort as a 4 as there's not a ton of back support, or there's no back support, but it is shaded at times, which I feel like the other two just didn't have shade at all. So at least at some points of the day with the trees near it, you would have some nice shade. Cost, I also put 5 as it used a lot of materials, as well as it needs to be maintained probably a bit more. Environmental impact, For all the steel stuff, I just gave 5 safety. Same issues as the other metal benches. Sustainability the same, as well as everything else, basically. The 4 and 2 were pretty similar, except for like the color, and there was a different design, and there was less back support on 4. But again, the shade did make it just seem a bit better. The local community college, I put a 5 for comfort because it was actually pretty well made, and the seat like wasn't super hot, so it was actually okay to sit on. Cost, it seemed a little bit more well made, at least from what I could tell. I looked up similar things, and they seemed pretty costly. It was in the hundreds, which I assumed the park benches probably were in a similar price range. But environmental impact, I put the same, as it seemed like it was made of stone and plastic, so those are probably not the best for the environment, but it did seem pretty safe. It was welded down, you couldn't really like shake it or tip it over. As well as for the same for sustainability and social impact are all the same for the same reasons. Function, I put it 2 because it didn't seem a little bit better of a chair. And aesthetic, I thought it looked really nice and with the nearby surroundings. Dog park, I also rated pretty low just for the fact that it had no back support. It really was just being what it needs to be, which is a place to sit down, as well as the materials it made weren't the best for the environment. 7 was interesting as there was a seat in the graveyard, which I thought aesthetically was pretty nice because it gives you a nice place to sit down and maybe spend time remembering your loved ones. But aside from that, it wasn't that comfortable of a bench. There was no real shade or anything to really bring it above just an average ranking. The seat did seem like it used very little materials though, and it was pretty well made, so I put it high on sustainability because it seemed like for a low cost it'd be staying there for a long time. 8 was a local restaurant, which the chairs were actually pretty comfortable and they seemed pretty cost effective as well, which is nice. They used very little materials, so they're probably environmental and sustainable. From what I could see, they didn't use anything too crazy. And from searching online, they seemed within the $60 range. I couldn't find the exact same chairs, but I found a few ones that looked very similar. They were still made of plastic, so not the best, but it was also very little, and they seemed durable from the reviews I found. Aesthetically, I did give it a 6 because it wasn't a piece of art, but it seemed to go nice with the feeling. Beanbag chair, I put comfort pretty high. Cost was very low because it's just like a wool thing we bought and filled up with plastic bags, which is why I gave it such a good environmental impact. And sustainability because it actually gives life to plastic bags that probably would have just ended up in a landfill. Safety is also pretty high because it's a soft little beanbag chair. Social impact though, since it's in my house, is a 1. And function is a 7, and aesthetic is also a 0. Rocking chair, we've had it for a very long time. It's a very nice chair. It is a bit expensive. It was about $100. The impact is pretty low though. Safety is also pretty good. I've never had really issue with it, though it has some moving parts, so it's not perfect. Sustainability, I put 6 because we bought this chair ages ago and it's probably gonna outlive me. Social impact, again, a 1 because it's my chair. No one else is gonna use it. And function, I gave it a 10 because it's a really good chair and I really like it. Aesthetically though, it's not the best, but I really like it. So this is my Matrix.